Oh, for the county line?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know why. This would make sense because that will continuously with the rest of the
Okay, everybody, it's a little bit after 1, so we'll go ahead and get started. Please feel free to, we've had this wonderful lunch, it's wonderful. I'd like to welcome everybody to the October meeting of the Rappahannock-Rapidan Regional Commission for October the 27th, 2021. And of course, thank you so much, Mayor Kaplan, for this whole experience today. It's just been wonderful. Picked the perfect day to have the tour, and lunch is amazing, and we really appreciate it. Might have to do this more often, I think. First up, we need to pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
sure.
We'll have a new member here with us today. I'd like to welcome Jonathan Weekly, Madison County Administrator. Just recently been appointed, and welcome to our administration. Look forward to it. Okay, Patrick.
Mr. Ashby,
Here,
Mr. Butler, Mayor Kaplan. Here. Mayor Porter.
Here.
Mr. Berger.
Here.
Mr. Curry.
Here.
Mr. Gill.
Here.
Ms. Donahue. Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Hyder.
Here.
Ms. Hoffman. Mayor Lamar. Mr. McCullough.
Here.
Mayor Roden.
Here.
Ms. Schaefer. Mayor Sisson. Ms. Sutton. Ms. Hale.
Here.
Mr. Voorhees. Mr. Weekly.
Here.
Mr. Woods. Here. You have a quorum in person.
Yeah, and as you can see, we have a couple of gentlemen here participating remotely, so we do need to add a vote today to approve their remote participation.
If you'll recall, the commission in June of this year adopted the electronic participation policy. So Mr. McCullough and Mr. Ashby did notify the chair prior to the meeting today with their request for virtual participation. We did notify the specificity of the reason for that, and so we'll document that in minutes. But there is a requirement for the quorum in person to approve that participation.
Another motion on that.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the agenda approval. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? If not, I need a motion to approve the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Public comments. You received any notification?
There were no requests prior to the meeting.
And I don't believe anyone is here for the public, so we'll move on. We do not have any special recognition or presentations today. Next item we have is the minutes from the August 25th meeting. We've had time to look at the minutes and request any corrections or changes.
I move to approve.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Discussion, Scott abstains, I was president. Okay, thank you.
All in favor of adoption of the minutes from August.
Aye.
Moving on to the financial reports. Patrick, you review the year-to-date financial reports and also the draft FY 2021 audit.
So I'm gonna try to share my screen for Mr. Ashby and Mr. McCullough, so you have it. Here. So item 7A, right, excuse me, item 8A is the FY 2022 year-to-date revenues and expenditures. That's through September 30th, the first quarter of the fiscal year. Revenues were at actually 36, almost 37% of budget through September. That's largely due to local dues that local governments have provided, as well as the PAC Foundation funds that we received in full from the Regional Transportation Collaborative that helped our revenue receive up significantly in the first quarter. Expenses are much below, they're at 15.4% for September. Again, as noted on the cover memo, we've got a couple of line items specifically related to equipment and software that are at significant levels, almost at full budget for the year. So what I anticipate is some of the unallocated revenues would be put back into those line items for the amended budget. Not at this time, but at a future meeting, once we have a better sense of our spending. And that really the cost there, especially for equipment and software, is a one-time cost for redistricting software. Some of that will be repaid for our contracts with a couple of counties in the region. So we'll bring back an amended request for an amended budget in December or February. But everything else, expenses are trending as anticipated, and we are fully staffed, so we've got expect to see payroll and the main budget drivers right where they should be throughout the year. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Anyone have any questions as it relates to the financial report? So we can move on then to the audit.
So the audit, we had the auditors in the beginning of September down in Hampton Roads that produced the audit. They provided their draft to us just a little bit over a week ago. We had some comments back to them, and what's in front of you today is the draft audit with those comments included. Very comments that from the audit process or
well, we just continue our streak of having a clean audit, so we again have not had findings, so it's nice to be able to say. Just of note, that you'll see in the management discussion, we did have an increase in our current assets of about 132,000. So we're in a good place financially. Our total net position did show up as a decrease because of the gas P68 adjustments that had to be made. But we are in a good place financially. Our fringe rate, we just got those numbers based on the audit finding audit numbers, and we had about a 1% increase in our fringe rate and about a 5% decrease in our indirect rate. But you'll see everything here in the audit, and again, if you have any questions, Patrick and I will be happy to answer.
And if we read through the entire audit, expect everyone to do, then we'll take those comments back to the auditors.
Anything else? This will be revisiting this
We'll bring back to
December.
approval. Yes.
We got time to formulate any questions. Next up, Patrick, the director's report.
A couple of things I want to highlight from the director's report. Again, thanks to Mr. Broder and Orange County for hosting the annual meeting at Lake Woods earlier this month. Appreciate everyone being there. Again, I particularly enjoyed the ability to present awards. We had 4 leadership awards and a special distinguished leadership award for Mr. Wood that we will present to his wife Colleen. And again, on that, I appreciate Ms. Schaefer and Ms. Sutford from Town Boards for communicating and getting me in touch with his wife, and really felt like it was a good chance to just, again, because we didn't really get a chance to talk about him when he passed away in January, to honor him and just looking at that mission of the region. So certainly appreciate that. Our staff has been out at various events over the past few months. I think we've had a boom here in August, September, and even October of kind of community events. And so we had Terry and Monica were at Culpeper Air Fest and Warrington Street Festival. Elizabeth Feeling, who's in with us today, was at representing Trail, for instance, Sheldon, and now Nature Expo. So if you're having community events and you want us there, we certainly have a lot of programs that we have to have a table, and you can be there if you're having a community event that would be beneficial to have our programs there. We're working with Rappahannock County and Town of Remington on a couple of applications to the Growth Accessibility Program through the Office of General Planning and Investment. These are both due on Monday, and this is for technical assistance. The kind of way it's set up now is that those are going to be for pedestrian planning and pedestrian safety enhancement planning projects. If you recall, we're working on one of those right now, actually, with Culpeper County and Town of Culpeper for some small area planning adjacent to the town and the technology zone in Culpeper to get some transportation planning done there. So it's the same program, technical assistance, and does not require any local match along those lines. So it's been a good program for this first year, and for the next year, technical assistance there. On environmental and natural resources, in August, the commission approved an application with Culpeper County for Department of Forestry, Virginia Trees for Clean Water program that was awarded. So we're working with county staff and Parks and Rec, and also, excuse me, Friends of Rappahannock to get that done. And that's going to enable some planting of trees, some Canadian red cherries, and service area trees at Lynn Park in Culpeper County. So, I think it's about $7,500 grant. Sean, is that right? And there's some matching goes into that. So a small grant, but I think it's a good spot for us just because of our work with Culpeper County and Princeton and also the big water things. So appreciated that opportunity. And as mentioned, we've got agreements with Culpeper County, Rappahannock County, and the town of Warrenton for redistricting assistance. Matthew, Decatur, in our office, and I had some initial discussions with each of us about how that process might work with their jurisdictions, with their governing bodies. So we'll kind of go through that process. We've also been following the Virginia Redistricting Commission and their work just to make sure that if they have something for their lack of product at the end of things. But when that process ends, when the Supreme Court develops maps, we'll take that information back also just to make sure that increasing boundaries will follow those that are designated there. But that is something we do over the next several months with those three jurisdictions. We also did do the full process with Orange County, right up there, their meets and bounds description, which is a pretty menial task, but one that nobody wants to do. So we're happy to take that off the county staff. And then the last thing I want to say is the last bullet point on page 2 of my report talks about the Regional Transportation Collaborative, and I just wanted to kind of give an example of the importance of that group and a recent initiative that it was able to provide. State Department of Rail and Public Transportation is the state agency that provides funding and is the pass-through agency for federal funding for vehicles for Community Services Board, area agencies on aging, and others that provide vehicular travel for their programs for elderly and individuals with disabilities. And they had one program in Southwest Virginia that unfortunately had purchased some vans and then was unable to pay for those vans. And so they said, if someone can come up with a local match for these, which is about 10% local match, then we can bring those vans back out or put them out to the rest of the state. And so the Regional Transportation Collaborative and some of the money from the PATH Foundation went through the Community Services Board, and also with Rappahannock, Lowlink, and Voltran, and was able to get 2 of these vans at a significantly reduced rate. And these are wheelchair accessible minivans that those volunteer driver programs are going to be able to utilize. And it's not costing them anything other than the partnership and work with through the Regional Transportation Collaborative. So I was on a call last week with Ray Parks from Community Services Board, and this was with members of the PATH Foundation and other partners on the Senior Services Collaborative. And he indicated as CSB is going to be the agency that owns and maintains those vehicles, he indicated that he spoke with the CSB down in Southwest Virginia, and they were, obviously not, unhappy that it didn't work out for them, but they said we're just wanting to do a good program. And he said, well, here's describe the model that we built here, and they're very glad to hear that it was just going to that, an individual program. So a partnership and really enabling that partnership to grow, kind of formalizing it more. So
is the CSB the owner of this?
The CSB is the owner. They've got agreements in place with those other partners. Caribbean program. They've got their caravan program that has similar lending in each county, and this is something that just makes those more prominent volunteer programs to have access to those.
A critical program for citizens.
I'm happy to answer other questions on the director's report. Oh, actually, before I hand it over, the other thing that's included as an attachment here for you is this is something that came out of the FOIA subcommittee, their meeting issue subcommittee, and I talked about this back in August. But one thing they're looking at doing this is kind of draft language for adding flexibility to virtual and hybrid meetings for public bodies. So we've not. This is something that they kind of posted as potential language, and it's still under discussion. I have not seen the legislation that's been put forth or maybe put forth for next general assembly session, but just putting that out there for your information. This would be something that would apply not only to the regional or appointed bodies, but potentially to your local government bodies too, in terms of virtual meetings. For the commission, I think the benefit would be that it gives us additional flexibility for holding a virtual or hybrid meeting, but there are some significant things that have to be provided in terms of public access and other things that are within this draft legislation is outlined there. So again, I'll keep you updated on that just because I do think it has a potential impact, our operating here in terms of purposes.
Some staff updates. Jennifer Patrick will provide an update on the PDC housing development grant activities and the timeline.
So, couple things here. A couple things here on the PDC housing development program. Just for your information, we held a kickoff Zoom meeting with stakeholders back on September 20th. Just to kind of give an overview of the funding that we've received and the potential uses of that funding. It's all on the website, and it's linked to the memo, commission's website, including the recording of the meeting itself. We've been active in developing program guidelines. We've had a lot of conversations throughout the region with potential interested partners, not only on just, here's a specific project, but just in general, we can see this kind of program, how we see it developing. A couple of things that we're looking for just your feedback today on is one, and I apologize for not having this in the packet, but it's around the table. You've got a document that's a front and back page. It just says agenda item 10A. The way that we sort of internally thought of developing this is we had a couple of people say that there's an application deadline March 2022 that may be critical for their projects. So they'd like to have at least some idea if they might be funded for that time. So one thing that Jared and I have kind of developed is the idea of having a very short pre-application or what we're calling a proof of concept document. That would enable us to get enough information from a potential partner to review it internally, to kind of give them some direction if there would be, if it looks like something that would make sense, and then give them some time to continue working on and developing an application. Our thought there would be that we could have this document or something similar to this document, and it's posted early to mid-November for that kind of formal pre-application, and then have a full application, or if we want to do an RFP process to get partners early in 2022 to give us time to release that, take the information or applications back in, and do a more formal process of the full application. It also helps us to document some of the conversations we've been having. Again, we're making notes about the potential partners or their potential projects, but by having this in place, it gives us a chance to get exactly what they're talking about down on paper and have them submitted to us rather than us relying on our notes or just memory of the conversations that we've had. So I don't need that. I think we just approval of that. That's just sort of the direction we're going. If there's anything that's concerns, we certainly look at that makes sense to kind of continue to go on that process in terms of taking in applications for that program. The other piece is, and if you see in your packets, there is some information that Jennifer's put together in terms of some survey work that she's done with partner stakeholders to talk about where the best uses or where the best projects might be, or how we might prioritize some of the funding at a regional level. And then the other thing we've included there is a draft grant guidelines document. And so really what we're interested in today is from a regional perspective, and this is in the project analysis section, is really looking at how do we want to, what are the things that we want to prioritize from the regional level when we see applications come in. So we've got some bullet points there that talk about projects designed with diverse housing types and that have innovative ways of addressing either missing middle or workforce housing, projects incorporating innovative building practices and designs, green building practices, innovative eco-friendly designs, intent to reinvest.
Make me some more coffee in this cup.
Back into development of additional units, and then projects demonstrating good faith outcomes according to our grant criteria. I think we also have some things from the regional housing study that play into how we score some of the applications that come in. The other thing that we're definitely going to include in the application is the method of not only tying to regional priorities, but to statewide priorities of green housing, and then a documentation of local, how it ties to local priorities, either through comprehensive plan or through local support, so that it's not just, regional level awarding funding out without any local input on those projects. Any of the projects would have to, you guys see on the kind of pre-application. One of the questions is, have you reviewed the zoning of the property, discuss the project with local agency authority? And I think that's because we don't see any of these projects going forward without local involvement and local support. So I think we're trying to make sure that happens up front rather than on the back end. But interested in any thoughts you might have, and Jennifer, I don't know if you've got other things that I've missed here or.
If you can scroll up on the, just a little bit more on the regional priorities. I think it's about 8 bullet points, so we'll start right from here. I'd like to refine those into 5 priorities, so this is something where I would value your feedback so that we have something to measure these projects against.
So I think when we're looking there, we've got desire to increase rental opportunities, ownership. I think we're expecting to see probably primarily applications that focus on rental properties, but it's something that we're not discounting the potential for homeownership opportunities coming out of this first round of funding. I think we've got a bullet point there, and it sort of ties to some discussions recently too about designated growth areas, whether it's a designated urban development area or some growth areas for county. Really wanting to help us just get a sense, and I think these pieces are more on the scoring side, and so this is not something we can answer on today, but I think just put some thought to it and let us know what really the priorities might be, because as we develop the application, the full application and scoring for that, we're going to want to be able to have that laid out as effective.
That's what I was going to ask, as far as narrowing it down to fewer bullet points to focus on. When would you like to see that so that you can start?
Well, and Jeffrey, before we go wrong here, my thought is we're going to be developing, we already are developing the application process. Again, I refer to it either as our application. I think it's probably more likely to be a rolling application because we don't anticipate handing out all the funding at one time. But there's some projects that have some deadlines for other funding grant programs. We know there are some that maybe not on that same timeline. We don't want to discount or not have money available for those as well. So, I think it'll probably be as we develop a full application. But I think between now and the December meeting would be helpful. What we do is refine, but I think that's something we definitely have in place by December, so that we can release the application periods before early in 2022.
Regarding this housing, this $2 million housing potential grant, how is it working? Is the money being designated to a region, and then the region determines the applications, or are they all going into a central repository, and then they'll do up to $2 million for each of the different regions?
So the $2 million has been awarded to the regional commission, and we're setting up, that's what we're doing right now, setting this program up and kind of setting up our priorities. I'll be honest, we've had some calls with other regions, and some of them, are not looking at doing the process where there were multiple projects. They're sort of saying, oh, we went to talk to this nonprofit, and they said they've got a project, we said we'll put all the money into that. isn't my comfort zone. I much prefer it to be something where we're not saying everybody gets some, but we're making it open to projects that may be available. So that's the way we sort of approached it, is to have an open process and have an application process, and also to make sure that people are aware that we don't anticipate awarding multi-million to one project. We anticipate multiple awards is our working monitoring.
I want to say that given how diverse our region is, we fairly densely populated towns to less dense areas, as even fringes of the other areas. I would want there to be flexibility, and I can think of models here with accessory dwelling units or things like that that could hit the target in a much different way than what most people think affordable housing.
Yeah, so the accessory dwelling is an interesting one. We've had some conversation with Virginia Housing about that, and I think really what we need to push up to them is, a white paper or some sort of proposal that says, here's how we're going to ensure these stay affordable, especially if property changes hands, if there's a sale. I know that was discussed at Overton Public, and the Schaefer, I think back in June, talked about potentially having a deed restriction or something along those lines. I think if there was someone willing to take that on and they would say that we would be willing to do that, then we could certainly push that up and we can verify with Virginia Housing. They've not said one way or the other, at least haven't sent them anything for them to respond to.
Any other questions? I do think it's a great approach, and certainly, I think we're pretty much ahead of the game as far as what other regions are doing, and I was surprised actually to read one region opted not to even get into this. It really surprised me, the amount of money and the need that's out there. So I think we're very fortunate. I think we can really do something.
One question for me. There doesn't have to be a UDA designation in order to take advantage. Under the board, imagine has passed a resolution to support revitalization grant funding from Virginia Housing. So I just want to make sure to speak to Gary's point. County doesn't normally fit a high density area, but there may be pockets that they can look at, especially if they're being revitalized. It's going to be mixed use, residential and business. So as long as it doesn't need that UDA, we'll be going to the UDA process with the town, but it's going to take some time. So.
Yeah, no, certainly no requirement for the project to be inside of designated UDA. I think that's something that we're considered as probably beneficial if we see it tied to services or close to services, but not a requirement. I would also say that I think, to Mr. Curry's point about flexibility, I think that's what we're shooting for. Again, a project that may work in the town of Culpeper is not the same that it might work in Madison County or Fauquier County even. And so I think that's ultimately why we're trying to give ourselves that flexibility. But someone comes in with an idea, and it's 5 units on a small parcel in a rural county, that makes sense. It could be, we haven't heard anyone talk about this, but if somebody had an idea for scattered site and developing affordable housing units on different sites, we'd definitely be able to respond to that for 17.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, next we have an update on the Regional Transportation Collaborative Program and a report on its activities following the first year of expanded funding from the PATH Foundation. And I don't know how many of you were there, but if any of you were at the volunteer driver appreciation event at Old House in Culpeper, that was really a great event, a great night, and some fantastic stories that came out of what these people do and the value that these drivers provide to the community. So if you can give us an update on that.
I'll be pretty brief on this one. What's included in your packet is actually the report for the kind of matrix that we provided back to the PATH Foundation. And really that is a lot of pages that kind of documents all of the activities that the Regional Transportation Collaborative undertook. And it's broken down by the call center, by the volunteer outreach specialists that are the call center staff is at RRCS, the Community Services Board. The volunteer outreach specialist is with Aging Together. We've got donated forward incentive program that was led by Voltran as the organization. So really, I think that the main point of all of the activity log that was included there is not so much that you see, okay, there's a lot of work. It's just a lot of tracking and a lot of partnerships. Again, the work that goes in between, our staff person Kristen, as well as the community services board at the call center, and then also the various volunteer partners. As Ms. Taylor said, the volunteer driver event, I think, we've got Rappahannock, Lowland, Voltran, the community services board caravan program. They all had, to tell you the stories of, individual volunteer driver, the work that they've done. If you're at the annual meeting, one of our leadership awards from the Southford was with Voltran, and she herself had provided, thousands of hours and thousands of miles of volunteer driver trips over the past year, even during COVID-19. So great work. And so I think the work that the commission does on this is really where we excel in terms of a coordinating process, providing that sort of management and long-term direction, and then trying to connect those, sometimes nonprofits that have no staff with funding or, assisting in receiving some of that funding. So I'll just give you a couple of statistics that from, an infographic that we're currently developing using draft form just about the last year, but there was about on average, there's about 25 phone calls that come into the call center every day for a transportation request. And this is on a daily average. 300 senior meals delivered through the community services board, about 6 rides a day provided through all the partners. There's gas cards through the 40 clients almost on average per day in the last fiscal year. Most of the referrals, so 3% of the calls that come in, they get a referral, go to public transit, regional transit, public transit provider. 8% are referred for a gas card if there's no other option, but 64% are referred to volunteer transportation. And I just think that feels such a critical need in this region. Expanded funding over the last year from October 21 to the fiscal year currently right now, from October 21 to September 2022. That's with the PATH Foundation money, but also the additional funds that we received through Department of Rail and Public Transportation. So it's over $500,000 supporting this program right now. And again, from the commission's perspective, we have one person spending about half of her time on this program and coordinating with all of these people, but making sure that the money that goes out is filling the needs for those other partners. So in terms of our bottom line, it's we have a little bit that supports our staffing. But most of it is passing through to other organizations. And so the other thing I would say is that this has been pretty active in the last couple of months, has been sharing the model. She's been on a couple of TRPT has got a couple of contract with the Commonwealth University, and they're developing kind of best practices, and one of the models they're using is the transportation collaborative model. She's also presented to Roanoke area, Charlottesville area, and I want to say Southern Hampton Roads or the south side of Hampton Roads in terms of the model, just because they've been directed. This looks like something that may work in other areas, and I know that all of those areas are urban areas with a lot more transportation opportunities, but I think they see the need that they already know that there's a need for volunteer coordination as well. So yeah, we feel really good about where that program is going, and just again wanted to make sure that we shared what was provided back to PATH Foundation, since they've been a big supporter of the last year and this current fiscal year as well.
What really struck me about that program too is just the fact that these drivers are a real lifeline to a lot of these people that otherwise, would be very isolated. I mean, sometimes they're the only people they talk to in a day or a week outside of their house. So it's a terrific program, and Kristen's doing a really great job with managing that. It's an amazing group of people.
So we had a presentation at the Rotary on the beginning of the month, and they did an excellent job, and we get to see people stay on as to the number of people who needed services every day. And then the gentleman who was there did an excellent presentation. It was very nice. Great program.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, exciting things going on in the farm to school program. Liz Beeling, am I saying that correctly?
Really?
I'm sorry. I'm terrible. But Liz joined the farm to school program as liaison in late August, and really hit the ground running from what I understand. So if you'd provide us some information on the first couple of months here, what you've been doing, it'd be great.
Yeah, thanks everyone for having me today. I'm excited to talk pretty briefly about what I've been doing. So, just a little background, I was hired, and started at the very end of August, so this is kind of rounding out about my second month here. I grew up and was born and raised in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I left for college to go down to Georgia, so I'm really excited to be back and working here. Happy to
Just give it to you.
yeah, just wanted to go through and kind of give some updates on what I've been doing in each of the counties. I'm sure that most of you are familiar just with the idea of my position, that it kind of emerged out of a need and interest for more farm to school programming and access to local fresh food for the school districts, but just kind of the general complaint was like a lack of staff time, so my position was created to kind of serve each of the different counties. And one of the big programs that I've been working on is something called Harvest of the Month, which is a program that Virginia has kind of pilot an item of seasonal produce every month. So for October it was apples, for September it was bell peppers. So in Rappahannock County, here are some pictures from Harvest of the Month case test that I did with their ADL action-based learning class. Jackie teacher made this like little bell pepper octopus, and we had the kids do an experiment where they were like testing out their different vegetables. Some were float, and then they got to taste the bell pepper. So I'm doing similar stuff with them monthly. I went in and did an apple lesson a few weeks ago for them. You could go ahead and change the slide too. Pretty similar in Fauquier County, also focusing around the Harvest of the Month program, but since they already have Fauquier Fresh, I've been primarily working with the Head Start kids, which is their early learning program. And also the transitions program, which is their 18 to 22-year-old developmental skills program. And I'm also conducting some nutrition education webinars for them. I'm doing one actually this afternoon, so I'm gonna dip out a little early after this on shopping on a budget and snack education. So that's been really exciting so far. Similarly, in Madison, primarily focusing on the Harvest of the Month case test. I was at Madison County Primary School last Thursday and Friday, and we were doing a taste test of apples and a little experiment on how to make sure that apples don't turn brown when you cut them. So we have them like put apple in lemon juice and vinegar and try it and see what works. So that was really fun, and I'm going to another school tomorrow actually to do something similar where they'll taste test apples and I'll talk to them a little bit about apples, where they grow, nutrition and that kind of thing. In Culpeper, I'm still working on getting kind of regular Harvest of the Month programming, but I'm expecting to do something similar as the other counties. Looking into some plans they had for a school garden at Yalom Elementary School that I'm not sure went through. And similarly in Orange, also doing that kind of Harvest of the Month programming, as well as working with their alternative education classes for middle and high school. So I've been kind of out and about a lot of these past couple of months. It's been really great to kind of get to know the region a little better and get on the ground in schools, which, as you can imagine, was a little difficult to get into because of COVID. It's not impossible in all the schools, but luckily there's some that have been willing to have me. So the other big part of my role is data collection. So we're looking to collect data on the state of existing farm to school programming, kind of track what goes on throughout this year and if that position has any impacts on it. So we did a baseline survey on local procurement and procurement of the school nutrition directors in the region. So that just covered like food costs, lunch, breakfast, and summer meal purchases, kind of the rate of pre-root lunches just to get a baseline. And we did that at the beginning of this year. And then the other survey that I've been working on is, you can go ahead and change the slide also, is just a survey of teachers to see kind of if they're already doing farm to school education, if they're interested in conducting farm to school education and what they'd like to see from my position. So we got a lot of responses. And the really great news is that so far, I haven't closed the survey yet, just getting some like straggling responses, but about 30% say that there's already farm to school education in place. So there's already a lot of great things going on already, but 58% of the teachers also said that they didn't participate in farm to school education but would like to. So there's definitely a lot of room for me to help out and help them extend into farm to school education. across different grade levels, across a variety of topics, addressing kind of a variety of different kinds of farm to school education, like agriculture, nutrition. So it's very broad and there's a lot of room to grow. So I'm really excited to kind of go through those more in depth and see what the need is. So that's my very abbreviated presentation on what I've been up to. I left my email on the screen if anyone's interested in meeting with me. This link you can follow it, schedule meeting if you have any ideas or something that you want to talk about. So thank you guys so much. Does anyone have any questions?
Not a question, but I would just comment that Gordonsville has a community garden.
Oh, that's
And it's only
fantastic.
2 or 3 blocks from the elementary school. And you may want to coordinate with the folks that really work with that to walk, have a field event there and utilize that community garden for education purposes.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. I didn't know about that.
Anyone else, questions?
I'll go ahead and add that, on the procurement side of things, the sourcing side of things, we found out that, Go Green that operates in Southside Virginia, is working with 4P Foods to potentially do source local foods for the schools in our region in Northern Virginia. So, Liz has been in talks with 4P and the school nutrition directors as to pursuing that possibility, and several schools showed initial interest in pursuing that. So then we're very excited about that possibility.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for certainly this area. Yeah, there's plenty of resources for a lot of fun ideas.
I also note in your packet, there's just a one-page article that was, I think, by the Rappahannock County Public Schools, just with one of the pictures that was added. Thanks to Mr. Jackson for publishing that on that draft reporter. It's great to see that sort of thing. And in this case, the thing I was most impressed with was they actually had talked about the Christian's role and really had it narrowed down, and it wasn't just, hey, here's this person that came in and this thing, and this sort of at least gave us some publicity there too. So good to see, and it's been a really great 2 months. I mean, it seems like it's been longer, but she is on the road for 3 days.
Okay, on to new business. Staff has requested a discussion on formalizing legal services for the commission. You have a draft request for quotes in your packet. So Patrick can explain the rationale.
Yeah, so as outlined in the memo there, and sort of the request for quote, I think in the past we've had work with the town attorney, an attorney in Culpeper in town that we had something come up that we called previously. That's been sort of informal for as long as I've worked at the commission. It doesn't happen very often. When Kathy Zielinski was on staff, she had a law degree and was licensed to practice, and so she provided review of contracts and a lot of our OA documents. But I think, and I've had this conversation with some of you, I think really at this point, especially with the housing development program and some contracts that will likely come out of that, I think there's a need for potentially formalizing a relationship with either a firm or an individual lawyer. So what I've got in the agenda packet today is really just a request for quote document that would allow us to go out and seek those quotes for sort of on-call legal services. The other, I haven't had this conversation with anyone, I would open it up if there was any locality that had an underworked county or town attorney, which I can't imagine any do, but that option potentially we would be happy to explore that also. I just have this out in the event that it would make sense to go out and see quotes with us. I think it's something that we don't anticipate it to be very much in terms of time. Probably the first year would be more than the following years. Just because we have to review contracts, get us some templates, provide some assistance on things that are sitting. But I think also the other thing I would note is that with the idea that most of the work would potentially be tied to the housing development program, all of that would be billed back to the grant to Virginia Housing, and so would incur those specific things would not incur costs. The commission doesn't have grant reimbursed costs. We would likely have some that would come out of an existing line item, audit/legal line that would be used for that purpose. But lot of the initial near-term things would be grant funded through that housing development program. But just interested either A, if this, seems like we should just go out with this, or if anyone has any other thoughts in terms of little options or anything else, would be fine. So
Have we talked to DHC about this as far as any boilerplate stuff or any work they've done to estimate among everyone that they've got as far as
in
contracts?
terms of the RFQ here, as a good public servant, this was one that Central Shenandoah TDC put out about 3 years ago, and I grabbed at that time just to have, went back through and edited that.
But also ones that we could use beyond this, if the state, since the state knows that the money's gonna be there and all those people are gonna need it. I didn't know if they would lead the way with any of the necessary, standard kind of stuff. And I put it out there to them, that everyone's gonna need it, all the regions are gonna need it. And it'd be simple enough for them because it's, I won't say boilerplate, but it should be standard contracts and things.
So I now actually better work for execution for this. So the Virginia Housing, they have said we can provide templates. I think, at least for what we've seen so far in their templates, we've been, they're okay, but I think, it's probably something where you have with that.
It doesn't quite.
I would make the motion to go ahead and do this. However, I would also suggest that we not use any localities' legal counsel, because as Madison County knows all too well, we're involved in another regional group that if something does go awry, it's just a whole lot easier not to have that relationship. It's convenient, but doesn't work well.
That's so.
So we have a motion to move forward with the RFQ for legal services in a second. Is there any further discussion about
Just
that?
a bit of discussion of Procurement Act doesn't require us to competitively seek legal services. Are there firms that you are aware of that?
To be honest, the person in town public was actually a town attorney for one of our members. So with Mr. Bridger, what you're saying, I mean, certainly I'm aware of some locally, but none that I would need to be saying.
So this is as much finding what's available as it is.
I think in terms of
It's not a necessary step, but if we don't know what's available, this is an opportunity to perhaps.
yeah, I think that, I think it's something where it binds us to select any, potential quote that comes in, but it does get some information.
And we plan on sending it specifically out to law firms so that they're aware in case they're not looking for any sort of public announcements.
I can do it. We typically, when we have an RFP goes out to FIBA, that's statewide, will be on.
Right.
So that gets a number,
But if anybody were interested, I always like to send something direct too, because if they're not looking, they might be interested, but not looking.
And it's also very possible there's a firm out there that already works with other regional commissions, is very familiar with all the laws related directly to us, that would be interested. The regional jail authorities, there's a firm that pretty well does the circuit there. That's all they do.
Is there a couple of things? One, would it be on a retainer basis? It sounds like it's going to be on per service. Is there any idea that you have as to what the ceiling might be for cost per year, barring, some lawsuit or some crazy stuff?
I mean, I think I've been pretty, in terms of the what's in the RFQ is, sort of saying for the first year, so, 30 and for that's probably well beyond what we're gonna need. So no, I think it is something where it's probably on an on-call basis. Again, with the housing needs, I think that in the ability to build that back to the grant, I think that becomes stronger there. It was something where it becomes a bigger issue. I think that, frankly, from the larger issue of would it be helpful from the commission standpoint of having someone on call in case there was something bigger at some point for some reason. I think that's as much the peace of mind that we would see as well.
And the other thing, and it's a very, very small point, but you go through all this and then under your other terms and conditions, you start calling it an RFP.
Thank you. we'll make that change, and that's because the terms and conditions were developed for our, thank you.
Anyone else, questions, concerns? Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item 11B is a grant application for an update to the Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. The commission had previously approved the request last December, but due to funding constraints, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management asked for a resubmission to this year's application period. So tell us about it.
So, yeah, for those of you that were at the December meeting last year, you probably did something very similar, but this is the mitigation plan, is something that's updated every 5 years. Currently, the 5 counties plus the towns of Culpeper, Warrenton, Orange, Gordonsville, Remington, and Madison participated in the plan. The town of Washington and town of Plains are incorporated in the plan because of the counties that have not participated separately. It's really it's a mandated plan that comes from FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security related to natural hazard mitigation. The 5-year update is a requirement as well. Our previous plan was adopted in December 13, 2018. So we've got from now over 2 years. The reason the request went in last December and it's coming back to you today is because FEMA's grant process, even with us applying to FEMA, in November, we probably won't start this planning update until a year from now. So wanted to get in with this application this time around. The one positive thing for having submitted something to the December opportunity is that the application materials are all very much the same. The letters of intent that we received from localities that local governments that are participating at that point are still valid verbatim approval. So we don't do a lot of extra work here in terms of putting this one in, but we're seeking $75,000 from the program with a 25% match. Oftentimes that matches 20% of that, 80% of that local match is actually picked up by the state. So from a commission perspective, it tends to be about a 5% match that we provide in staff time.
Any questions, concerns? Okay. Now we need a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. To item 11C, a requested application to Virginia Housing Alliance for the 2022-23 AmeriCorps Vista program.
So you've heard me speak on the VISTA program and benefits that the commission has received from that, especially for those housing network. What we're asking today, and normally this is one where we seek approval, but it's not come at a cost to the commission. What's changing for the program, it's going to begin next August of 2022 for a 1-year term, is that the state organization that oversees the VISTA program, which is Virginia Housing Alliance, has asked for each of the host sites to contribute $6,500 towards the cost of the VISTA. And other than that, up until now, the commission has not had to pay any fee or anything along those lines for this program, which provides basically a full-time, typically college graduate that's coming right out of college. That's been hired, although Jennifer joined us 2 years ago as a VISTA. So you get basically a full-time employee that's providing that support and that assistance, and for the work that we're doing for those housing network. It's been valuable to our work. So we currently have a VISTA, Olivia Savini, who joined back in August of this year, and has been helping in terms of developing some of the outreach materials for those housing network, and just sort of formalizing some of the work that they're doing, and supporting Rebecca Wareham, who's our COC coordinator. But the request today is the fee would come out of next year's budget. So when we develop the budget in June or spring of next year and the adoption in June, would include it then, but just seeking the approval to go forward with the application now, with the understanding that $6,500 would be part of next year's budget.
I would move to approve the staff to submit the application for the 22-23 AmeriCorps Vista program.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I think it's $6,500 is still quite a bargain for what that entails. Anyway, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? Finally, one last grant request. This is to the Department of Housing and Community Development Housing Trust Fund to implement a pilot expansion of the Blue Hills Housing Network Coordinated Entry Program to allow for in-person screenings at partner agencies.
So, as you know, as we spoke about, Blue Hills Housing Network, the commission's main role is to be the lead agency for Blue Hills Housing Network, and that's to provide grant coordination and support for some of the partner nonprofits that are doing service provision. One area where the commission has a larger role is with the coordinated entry program, and so we have a staff person and a half-time staff person that provide phone screenings and do referrals for rapid rehousing prevention and other resources for housing needs in the region. That is entirely phone-based. We don't have walk-ins at our office. We're not set up and without some significant renovations. We ever be set up to do screenings in our office. And I don't think it's what the commission's mission is in terms of having it in person intake. But that is a barrier for the overall Blue Hills Housing Network. And so one of the items that staff has worked on is potentially putting an application to the Housing Trust Fund. We're looking at $40,000, and what that would allow us to do would be to provide some funding and some technology support to partner agencies. And the likelihood is that this would be DSS offices. We've had conversations with Buckyear, Culpeper, and Madison specifically on it. So far, I think we'd be willing to certainly we'll talk with Rappahannock and Orange as well to see if they might be willing to engage in that process. Those first three have indicated a general interest in producing that and providing that function. And that would allow people as they're in a DSS office to go through the entire screening and intake process. The information is put into the same database that it would on the phone, but it gives them an option of not having to do it over the phone. But that's the their DSS offices. Then that would be another thing that they could do to reduce that from hours. The other places that we've talked, we've had some conversations with SAFE and Culpeper as well. That would help us to align with their intake process that they do. And we're not closing the door on anybody else. It's really just give us the opportunity to pilot that program and see how it works, and then to align or adjust future grant applications to kind of grow the first opportunity, because I think there's a lot of benefit to that.
Will this supplement a program that's already in existence, or other organizations are doing something like this or some of this, but not enough of it, or it's not being done at all?
So it's being done, but the only place it's being done is by the two staff people at our office that do it by phone. And that's because it's a screening process specifically for the homeless rapid housing and the homelessness prevention programs. I think our goal is, because we see those entry processes happening at other locations in person, that this is just one additional thing that they can do as part of their process.
So none of the county, no social services are requesting this right now. If it's done at state level, it's being done through the regional commission.
In our region, it is, and in a couple other regions as well. Typically, it's honestly, it's often a nonprofit function, and in a lot of places, the reason that we've taken it on is because there was a nonprofit that was able to take that process on when it was happening. 2015, 2016.
Right.
I'll be pretty honest. I think long term it would be great to find a nonprofit partner that would take this on and incorporate it into some of their overall programs. I don't know that we have that.
Does PATH address this issue at all?
PATH?
PATH.
PATH has been supportive of those housing network, not so much this coordinated entry piece, but they also have, PATH has their community link resource line, which is more broad-based resource referral, and where that has helped is they've got we have a on-call contract for translation services with the national organization that we use if we need it. But PATH has a Spanish-speaking staff member that oftentimes will direct people to us and sort of translate.
I didn't know if they've done a broad-based evaluation. They have the plans and programs they have, or if they're still open to a presentation. Would you be interested in doing this and this and leveraging this? I didn't know if they've been approached with some innovative new programs that they haven't considered. We haven't considered that they would help leverage into a grant or something like that, but where they wouldn't have to undertake the whole thing, but they could work with us and help us be able to do it. But it just seems like the sort of thing where the funds are available, but even the match can be cumbersome and difficult. But where there's a lot of funds available, I like to make sure they're considered. They may have their own programs, but a lot of times what they have is only because they haven't considered the next one. And I like to pitch things.
To that effort, Skyline Cat has their own housing, they're Green, Madison, maybe I don't know much presence in Orange. So they have intake and processes. I don't know if it's something else they would be willing to look at. I definitely think they should be vetting a lot of the work with housing vouchers and so maybe someone to reach out to Simon Fiskus over there.
Who was that, John?
Skyline Cat, community.
We also do rep.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of exactly. I think that there's a lot of potential partners that could handle some of this. I think, from our perspective, the 5 county areas, since that's what the state has designated for this local planning group. Again, I think long term it would be great to find the right agency to transition this coordinated entry program over to. I just don't think we have that at the moment, but it's definitely long term goal.
For rural communities, you gotta have the property with the housing on, so that's what Skyline traditionally does versus the high density area.
So the administrative support and technology in that position, the commission to be flexible in future, multiple agencies being involved rather than
That's
you assess it. Does this set you up to be really flexible going forward? Find different agencies to help support.
That's the goal, and as I said, I think the 3 DSSs that I reference are the ones that we've had specific outreach to, and then making sure we consider it. I think what we would do for that is, we don't anticipate this to be something that's very burdensome on. I mean, we're not talking about, they're gonna have 10 people coming in a day to do these screenings. It would be very much something where they would have access to the database, this funding will allow access to the database. We would train their staff member members to be able to input that information. Really, it would hopefully take some of the first benefit would be for the client to use the client in the building, okay, not just another program they have to call to do the screening. But the second thing from our perspective is it just enables, really what probably would be better off house it at a different agency, give some backup for our staff that's doing the coordinated process.
How does Habitat for Humanity work into any of this at all? Is that totally separate, or is there communication?
Yeah, so I mean, in this region, Volunteer Habitat for Humanity is the most active, and they've been interested, and we've had many conversations about the housing development program. In terms of referrals back and forth, not as much, but they've been active. I know that they've had conversations with some of the other Habitat, Orange and Culpeper and other areas too, just about ways to partner. But in general, they're the most active and we've had conversations.
Well, this sounds great. I would certainly like to move to authorize executive director to submit an application to the Housing Trust Fund Grant Program for coordinated entry pilot project.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have no need for closed session. I guess we are to the regional roundtable. And why don't we start with our host here?
Again, I want to thank you all for coming out to Little Washington today and joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here. We are just moving along the post office. We're working with the Postal Service to try to resolve today's crises. And so hopefully we'll have that resolved soon. I think we're very excited about this new business that you had a chance to tour through, patios. And I think that'll have a big benefit both to the town and to residents in the county. Those are kind of the main things. I'll defer to my colleagues for more exciting information.
I'm just gonna like Greg do my table, I'll add to it, please.
Moving forward, getting out our sidewalk improvement project on Madison Road. It's very near to probably going out this week if you know the constructors there.
And along with that, we're very near to issuing RFP for liquid feed at our water plants, convert chemical feed to liquid feed at the plant. Subject to BDH's approval before we can put out the RFP. We're having our SCADA project at the sewer plant is already underway and is moving on quite well. Docent Technologies is doing that, and that is a very great system. We have a couple of staffing problems, staffing changes in our town. Our chief of police is retiring on Friday, and Kylie Madison will be the new chief of police. We'll issue a press release later this week, I believe. And Diana Gomez, excuse me, I can't do my mind. Haven't known better than this. Diana Gomez will be our new director of finance. Doris, our current director of finance, will be retiring at the end of the year, but she's going to join us at the end of November. Other than that, our ODA housing trip is scheduled for on Friday, subject to weather this time.
And we started planning a little more expensively for the town's 150th anniversary yesterday. Right now, we plan to do that celebration on June 11th, 2022. Isn't that correct? 2022, yeah, because June's already gone. And we're looking for it not to be a formal event at all. We want people to come and enjoy, be able to go around the town. We've got some things planned that they can set up and look at visual histories of the town rather than people talking and standing and listening, because the stand time people don't listen very well when you stand and talk. So we're looking forward to continuing the progress on that. So we're excited about that.
Well, I echo Mayor's sentiments. Thank you for coming to Rappahannock County. As you drove in, I'm sure you noticed it's all different. And as you drive out, look around, stop off somewhere, plan to visit back. Probably not next weekend, the weekend after, we'll be inundated. People heading to the Shenandoah National Park, and gets to be a little bit crazy. I don't think there's anything too exciting to share relative to the county. Where everybody is very interested in election season, so we'll allow that to get behind us and move on to bigger and better and greater improvements.
Well, I want to say thank you as opposed to thanking us for coming. Thank you for inviting us. There's no problem getting in my car and driving. But when I got here, what a beautiful county. What a beautiful county. And it's a great day for this. So thanks for the invite and hosting us. Just a couple of things in Gordonsville. We had our annual fried chicken festival a couple of weeks ago. And it was a day about like this, so it was beautiful. And our biggest fried chicken vendor over the life of this event, the last 700 years, didn't attend because of COVID concerns. And we could have turned out even a lot more chicken, but we probably usually have 2,000 to 3,000 people, and people were saying 7,000 to 9,000 at this one. It's hard to say because is the person staying all day or they're coming for 45 minutes and leaving. At all times, there was 2,000 to 3,000 there, but it wasn't the same people. So we're trying to guess the number of turnovers, but also how much chicken it sold. And they did sell out. I guess disgruntled people that had to stand in line starting rumors that they were out early, which they weren't. They still had chicken at 4 o'clock, so people were spreading that rumor, which was wonderful. But regardless, we did sell all the chicken. And I will tell people, if you have an event that you're planning for 2,000 or 3,000, like always, and it's 10,000 people there, you're not going to have enough chicken. You can't buy like 20,000 pieces of chicken just in case that many come. So that's just going to be the way it goes. But that was a great day. We've had Patch Brewery open since we last met, and that's on 18 acres total, and it's also on the old VFW property, and it's got a very large, what was a picnic shelter in there. They've gotten into an event area, and they've got all these family-friendly things, ballpark and games and things to make it for a family. So that's become real popular. Just in the last month, it's been open, and also just today, east of Maui opened, and all tasty foods, coffee, bagels, that sort of thing. And they've totally redone that. They're working on hard for the last year and open today. So that's open like 6 to 4 or 5 or something and open today. And as the name sounds like, the coffee is, they have a processing plant and everything. It comes from, it's Hawaiian, rich soil Hawaiian coffee. So just that.
So lots going on in Culpeper, good stuff. I'm gonna share let Mr. Deal share some of it with you, but had our event season, so we had farm tour, the Air Fest, the Cycling Century, all 3 of those went off really well. All 3 broke attendance records, so I guess people were ready to get out after the pandemic, so happy about that. Also wanted to mention that we got a $470,000 industrial revitalization grant to spend at Carver on a commercial kitchen. We asked for 600,000, but we got 470, which is more than we thought we'd get. There was only 4 awards in the state. And Patrick's very familiar with everything going on down there with the Ag Research Center, the Virginia State University, the Black Farmers. But Patrick, I know Elizabeth had to leave, but please, that farm school program should probably match up well with a lot of what's going on in Carver. So, all good stuff there. And I've talked to Jonathan here, and we'll be talking to Ted and Orange about some of the other vocational type opportunities at Carver that we want to get the whole region involved in.
I'll piggyback. Like John said, there's a lot of good things going on. Culpeper, we're on a roll right now. We're feeling good about it. Culpeper County, and we started out. We had an opening celebration for our vocational school this year, a couple months ago, which turned out real nice. We just got a unanimous decision by our board to build our rec center, our field house down at the complex, which we had a great bid on. We thought it might be over $4 million, but it came in at 3.7, which we were ecstatic about. It was a unanimous decision to go forward with that. We're going to put lights in all of our fields down at the complex, which is going to be a $2 million project. The board was unanimous with that initiative. That's going to give us 16 fields at the complex, 14 lighted, and we're really starting to discuss and work with our recreation director as far as sports tourism for Culpeper, because it just makes sense. I mean, we're centrally located right in the middle of everything, and UVA's reached out to us for different sports, lacrosse and rugby, and I think Andrew, our recreation director, just solidified softball and baseball state championships in the next several years. So we're excited about that. We're getting ready to build 4 pickleball courts at our new lake, thanks to the town. We did a transition where we're taking over the lake from them, the land part of it, and which made sense both to Chris and to John, and to the town council, Megan and her counterparts and our board. So we're taking over Mountain Run Lake, and our first amenity that we're going to put out there are 4 pickleball courts. So we're excited about that. All on a 55-cent tax rate, which we were very proud of, and $60 million in our reserve fund. So things are going very well right now in Colorado County.
And I would like to thank both Culpeper County and Culpeper County Public Schools, our school board and our board of supervisors recently went for an additional tour of CTEC to try to move our plans forward on the CTEC or Orange Tech, because we have similar issues that we really need to get more space, especially with the industries that we're getting, one of which was really good for us, not as good for Bob. A millwork that started off in the town is moving to our industrial park, expanding with about a $1.6 million investment. And they're custom millwork that does just phenomenal work. So another industry that's growing in the county. Our public safety building is now occupied. They're functioning, sheriff's office, IT, and fire and EMS is in there due to some timing issues with Verizon. Our communications center will not move there until December. The first board meeting will be there in December. We're also looking at expanding and beefing up the county's park system. We have a booster park and we have a small park down in Barbersville, but other than that, we really don't have some of the citizen services that we need. So we're looking at doing that and providing that the current board survives this election next week. We'll continue on with that. And if we don't, it's been a great pleasure working.
All right, Culpepper, a lot of various projects going on. We continue working with the downtown development project. That's where we're putting in a pedestrian bridge across the railroad tracks, additional parking. Still talking about what to do with the remaining space. Sure there'll be a park component associated with that since it backs up. And we're also working with a couple of developers on a potential public-private infill project that's associated with that as well. So a lot of moving parts. Norfolk Southern is in the mix, so that's kind of like watching paint dry, a much slower pace. So that project is continuing to move on.
Where is that exactly?
Right there at the depot.
Oh, okay.
Two small projects. Sometimes the small projects get the most interest from the community. We removed the caretaker's house from the cemetery, as well as moved the maintenance building. There was a maintenance building right in the middle of the old part of the cemetery. We actually took that one down, moved it to our public works location, and then built a more appropriately sized one back in the woods to where we could hide it for that facility. We got a lot of positive feedback from that. And then we have a low water pedestrian bridge down in Yamato Park that we get comments all the time. They can attest to that about it flooding and whatnot. And we're gonna start next month and put a bridge a little bit higher elevation. So there, it's not gonna solve all the flooding issues in the floodplain at Yamato Park, but it'll reduce it somewhat. That's kind of how it
Madison's a lot of things going on, a lot more than when I left as an elected official. A lot of retirements. You need to be in the newspaper. If you're hiring, why are you hiring? What's going on with that county? But the people reach a point in their career, you should be able to enjoy that. So we've been replacing anywhere from facilities maintenance to executive assistant as well. We do have a finance director vacancy. I'm glad to hear Orange had some success. We're hoping to have the same, but we're out to a search firm to give us some assistance. So if you know folks, it seems to be a very scarce resource or individual, but please send them our way. We're anxious to add them to our team. It is an exciting time to come on. Some folks may run from ERP. You're in the middle of an ERP. Some of you have Tyler Munis. We are moving over from RDA to Tyler Munis. There's some other parts of the ERP Infinity Laserfish. So that's some of our capital investment. We do have a radio project, and I'll take the opportunity to at some point maybe reach out to Gary and see if there's some good fit there for Rappahannock. But many of us make up many acres of the park and topography and different things and challenges that brings with first responders and being able to connect. We don't want to leave our first responders without that ability to connect. The board just approved the Hughes River lease agreement last night. We expect construction to start on that in 2 to 3 months. So we're pretty excited there. Solar projects. So the county doesn't really have solar. I know some have solar initiatives. We did have an ordinance not too long ago, we're looking to revamp that. It has to do with setbacks and buffers. So we're probably looking to other localities who have those initiatives, the kind of lessons learned. But it's currently at a rezone request, so we're nowhere near a site plan or anything of that. They've gone from one provider to a new provider. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, that seems to be the name of the game. And then EMS Public Safety Campus, I believe our board has come over to look at both localities, Culpeper and Orange, seeing what's the right fit. A sad day came in Madison County where the volunteer squad is no longer in existence. It's look at numbers, demographics, it's many things I won't labor you with today, but very appreciative for those long time members and active members for what they did. It's just a different world now. So we've had EMS for a while, but now we're looking beyond where do we locate our folks as we go beyond EMS and go to a full public safety campus. We had Rrrc Profit provide a follow-up presentation of a site study that they had. One is current volunteer squad property, the other being a part of our Hoover Ridge parcel that we own, which is about 102 of 180 acres is recreational. So we're looking at some of that non-recreational parcel for potential use, but there's still a little work to be done on that. So some of the items happening in Madison, and we're appreciative of Patrick's time. I think we spent about an hour to go. Just learning, they point you to a board, you want to learn a little more about it, what am I walking into. But we definitely think we'll have some housing things we'll be knocking on your door in the future where it makes sense. So thank you all.
Okay, well, Mr. Hadley summed up pretty much town activities, and of course, we've got a lot of exciting things going on in Culpeper County as well. So I'll just use my time to again thank Fred and Gary for having us out here at Rappahannock. Wonderful, and we do need to pass along our thanks to the folks at the inn for lunch and the hospitality.
Let Patrick come.
It's very appreciated. And also to anyone who's running in this election cycle, I would like to wish you well. Wish you good luck, and to those who are going to live with whatever consequence becomes of the election, I wish you well. Also, who knows what's going to happen. But,
Madam Chair, I'd like to bring one other thing as a circular note. Although it's a very handsome tie, I noticed that Monty is the only person wearing a tie, and I do not want him to feel pressure that he has to wear a tie at these meetings. So I just wanted to bring that up for consideration. Apparently, you want to see how else was
Oh yeah, don't want to forget the fellas on the camera. Are they still with us? If anyone would like to.
Yeah,
I'll
Mr. Ashby, if you got anything to share, you want to share? Hopefully we can hear.
I apologize for getting there. Well, I guess we'll catch you all next time. I apologize for not doing.
Okay,
Oh, there he is.
what was it you needed?
We're just offering you the chance to let us know what's going on in Remington.
Oh, Remington is doing well. We got through a car show not too long ago, but the same weekend as the Culpeper Air Fest, we had our annual fall days. That went very well. We had a very wonderful day that day. And you, Patrick, are working on our submission for a grant, correct?
That's correct, yeah, with Mayor Polk and Ms. Brinson, the town clerk, yeah.
Well, that be the highlights of what's going on in Remington to my knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's good to see you, Mr. Ashby. All right.
I've got to mention my feeder races, was mentioned, next Saturday. First time we hadn't had them in a zillion years was last year because of COVID. Having them again, I have to talk about my record being not 58 straight, but 58 without missing, since they didn't have one last year, but so I'm getting close to 60. But I started when I was a baby. I started when I was a baby. Not all 86. But it's a great day, and it's a day like this, we just enjoy being there.
Ms. Schaefer is also on the Zoom here. I was wondering, did you have something you'd like to report from Warren?
I don't have too much wanted to report. I'm just so bummed that I missed today. So I'm so sorry to not be there. We had a pretty significant fire here in Warrenton this morning, and a resident life flighted out, and they're going to be okay. But it was just an exciting morning, and I called Paul to see if he was going, and I was trying to see if I could drive fast enough to get there, but then remember I had a marked vehicle. So probably wasn't a good idea, but I'm so bummed to miss lunch and seeing all of you. So thanks for the Zoom, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Quick updates. I heard you guys talking a lot about infrastructure things today and other things going on. Warrenton is launching a new website. My goal is Monday, so I'm close to that. And we are also at the same time launching a microsite that will focus on tourism and local shopping ahead of the holiday season. So those are both scheduled to go live Monday. So been pretty wrapped up in those things. We are also completed the first steps in our CDBG grant related to septic remediation. So the planning portion of that grant has been submitted, and we are waiting to hear back on that. So a couple of big things in that area, but again, just wanted to say I'm sorry I missed you guys today, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Any other thoughts, comments?
We have not chose the location for the next host, but we will host that in Madison County. Our lovely tourism director will be working with Patrick. I don't know, it's a high bar set here. We'll find,
Get some nice spots.
We'll find a nice spot for everyone. So
I don't know, man, both for the Big State, pretty good offer.
all right, so I'm taking notes here.
Wonderful. We look forward to that. Okay, I guess we have a motion to adjourn.
So
When is the next meeting to start on?
December
December 8th.
The December one bumps up 2 weeks for Christmas.
December 8th. All right. We are adjourned, folks. Thank you very much.